Hey everyone, and welcome back. I have this month's Cards, Tags, and More kit here, and I'm going to do a couple of Easel cards, but real quick, I'm just going to go over. There's two flower packs in here, some lovely pastel pink and some pastel green, a memento dewdrop in bamboo leaves, a pad of the LemonCraft Happiness Elements 6x8. There we go, 6x8. One side of the sheets, well, the back cover, and then one side of the sheets have cut apart elements, and then the other side of them, except the phrases. The phrases have are English on one side, and I'm pretty sure Polish on the other side, since LemonCraft is a Polish company. And then the rest of the sheets are just some light patterned paper. There we go. And then there is also some 8x8 sheets from the Happiness line as well. Little more patterny on there. One that does have some fussy cut parts, but I probably won't be doing that. I like that wreath. I have to think of something to use that wreath on. And then a stamp set from Kelly Create. So some stamps there. And these are made. You can use them with small brush tip pins, I guess, to trace over. So with that out of the way, my two cards are going to be a 6x6 square card that has 4 little easels that pop up, and then a slimline card that is going to have 3 easels that kind of pop up that way. I've already got my head start going here. So I am just going to go over the measurements. The cardstock, all of the solid cardstock are just cardstocks from my stash. So for the 6x6 card, cut a 6x12, fold it in half. And then because this is a lighter weight cardstock, and I just wanted to add a little something extra on the inside, so I cut 5 3/4 inches twice, like that, for some layering. So two pieces of 5 3/4 inch by 5 3/4 inch, and then for the poppy uppy parts. I did write my measurements. I wrote my measurements on the back side so I could remember to tell you. 4 pieces that are 2.5 inches by 5 inches, and then scored at the center, so at 2.5 inches, so they fold in half. And then with your fold at the top, put a score line from one corner to the other corner, like so. So it'll fold like so. Or, well, basically whichever way you want it facing, but we're just going to say for the top just to clarify score lines. So, and then 4 squares that are just 2.5 by 2.5 that will go on that fold so that it folds like that. All right, so those are the measurements for this card. Since I have now covered all of that, I am just going to start gluing some of them together real quick. For the easel fold parts, on the bottom triangle there, with your folds up here, so the bottom triangle, is where you're going to want to put your glue, and then line up your top square and put it together, and that will give you that. That will give you that, whatever that is. It's a top fold card, so when they're standing up, they will all be facing the outer edge. So for those folds, I made two that have the score that go from the upper left to the lower right. That's these two that are on the left-hand side of the card. And then I made two have the score lines underneath from the upper right to the lower left, and those are the two for the right hand side of the card. So when they stand up, it will go a little something like so. Just going to put this off to the side, let those bits dry, and work on the other base. This one has a few less pieces. I just used the ivory cardstock as my base. So this is 8 inches by 9¼ inches, and then just fold it over at the 4-inch mark. And then my first layer is going to be like this. So this is 9 inches by 3¾ inches. And it is going to go on like that. And then for this card, I had a little bit of a different idea for the easel parts. I'm going to put them vertically, and they will fold up for these easels, the easel parts of them. They are 6 inches by 2¼ inches, and this was very specifically because of the decorations that I was planning around. So, and because there's 3, so I split the 9 evenly, hence the 3. And the 2¼ was because of my decorative planning. That's the only reason for these specific measurements. After you have them cut out, then score at 1½ inches. That will be the easel part of it. And then for their fronts that go on the easel, just 3 rectangles that are 2¼ by 3. And so then with the fold at the top, the bottom part of that is where you're going to put your glue. All right, and then I just put, this is a 3/4 inch wide strip, and that was just to create my edge spacing, just to make sure that this was, you know, as centered as possible. And then I'm just going to glue them down, and one right on top of the other. So this one will fold up something like, so the bases are put together. And now I just have to work out decorations. We'll work out the rest of the decorations. I did have some ideas just to go over the papers I am using. I used this piece that has just this pattern on it from the 8x8 pack. That's on the other side, well, across the center of the other side. And I just cut out 4 squares of 2¼ by 2¼ So you're going to want 4 squares of whichever pattern paper that you want for the top layer. And then on this piece, I kind of just put it back together so that I could show you. Oh, that goes that. So I could show you which piece it was real quick. There, that one-ish from the 8x8 pack. And I lined up. I cut my 2 1/4 strips each in from that lacy print on the edge. And I used a acrylic square here just so that I could line up over the images so that I would be able to see it'll focus so I could see where those flowers would be. So that's just how I lined up what I wanted for the underneath this part of that, where it will fold like so. See what's showing? See how much I want everything standing up as well? But more or less just fiddling around with them until I can get a layout I'm happy with. And these ones aren't really as important because they are a more all over print, and they just need to go on some way or another, like that. So those are the next layers. And then I'll be able to decorate and add the little stoppers for the easel parts. But these just need glued on. So in total, from whichever patterns you want, you need 8 squares that are 2 1/4 by 2 1/4. And there everything is all fussy cut out. I have started on one corner just to work out my process a bit. So I have this little easel corner done. And I just layered up a couple of the flowers, and it's actually going to be the same ones that are right here, and are going to go here. It's the same ones that are here. Just a couple of the flowers, and then the one that has the greenery with it. And I have it popped up on just some foam. They're not separated. So the collage-ish part is all one, all the flowers, and then the whole thing is just popped up. And then I finally worked out what I wanted to do for the little stoppers. And I'm going to use butterflies. I have this one in place already. And I have 3 more ready. So I'm just going to go over what I did because I did them late at night when I finally figured it out. And I wanted them dry by this morning so I could finish this up. Just the larger butterflies from the fussy cutting. And I have them on some double-sided foam. It was a sheet. So I put it on and cut it out so that the whole back is reinforced with that foam. And then I topped it all off with some diamond glaze. Sort of little butterfly enamel dot type doodads. That's what they're large enameled butterflies. Homemade. There we go. I just put the easel up where I wanted it. I don't care about it being at a perfect 45. I just slid it until I liked it and popped the butterfly on. I don't mind things being different or crooked or whatever you want to call it. All right, so the other thing, it's not heavy. Just a little bit, sort of to give a little shadowy effect along the edges, but without like shadow color, if that makes any sense whatsoever. I just used the ink pad from the kit, and well, gotta see what I'm doing. Gotta be able to see here. And just a brush, and got it on the brush, and then just very lightly went around those cut edges. And that was just so that it would have a little bit of depth to it when it was layered up, instead of, let me kind of put these next to each other so you can see what just that little bit of ink does. You can see there how it does add a little bit of extra depth, maybe not looking quite as flat as it is, and softens up the bit of white from the fussy cutting on the edge. So I want to finish inking everything up, and then I'll get everything glued down or foamed down, whatever the case may be. All right, 3 of the 4 are done. I'm going to use this one for the sentiment. So, I'll get that stamped up and probably tuck a few flowers in behind it. I'm not sure yet. But as you can see, relatively easy. When I put them on, I would glue down only a couple spots, kind of push them down flat. Just kind of a little bit of movement or a suggestion of movement there. Nothing major or fancy, just just a little bit. I'm just going to use one of the little cutoffs from the sheets that I used to make the squares, one of them. And I'm going to use the stamp set somehow, I suppose. All right, I remember what I was thinking now. I'm going to use the thank you, but I'm not going to stamp it all together. If that makes sense. Didn't really do anything heavy. I barely touched that water brush to the stamping. Just enough to soften it just a little bit. It is a dye ink, so it doesn't take a lot to soften it, especially since, you know, I stamped it and went right back in with the water or the water mix that I had made. That being said, since I have this puddle, I'm going to do the little bit I had been thinking for these. I mean, obviously you've seen the pictures, so you know there's 2 cards and what the second one looks like. So no real reason to kind of like pretend that the next one's a surprise. First thing is, since I'm not hanging them and they're kind of ornament, hey, blah, 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 made to hang. There's a word I'm not saying today, apparently. I'm clipping those off just not too hard, easy to smooth out and blend in there. You could leave them on easily also, maybe put little ribbons in them or something, but I'm not going to. Then this gum arabic that was in last month's mixed media kit, I'm going to use a little bit of that. Now there's no treatment on these chipboard pieces, no gesso or anything. I liked the naturally off-whitish color of the chipboard, especially since, you know, the papers are so flowery and they're going to be backed with it, and I don't want everything too busy and too colorful. Be too much of a distraction. And these are Tres Jolie chipboard eggs. They're not in any of this month's kits, but they should be in the chipboard section of the Tres Jolie store. Added just a touch of color to these, and now they can just sit and dry while I finish this up. This one here. And then, as you just saw, I decided that Happy Easter needed a little something extra on it. So I just put on a a rather watered down layer actually of the fairy wings from this month's mixed media kit. That was just so that now the Happy Easter, even though it still matches in color, it has the little bit of shine to it. All right. For this to be finished, I'm going to try to very carefully trim this down as straight as possible using just my eyeballs. All right, because I'm a glutton for punishment, I kind of fussy cut those out a little bit. I just liked it better that way. I think that that just looks much better. And there is this first easel card done. Relatively quick and easy, really, minus all the fussy cutting. But once the fussy cutting's done, then, you know, quick and easy. And it folds on down and can go into a 6x6 card envelope or box or whatever you want to put it in, I suppose. So, on to card number 2. I think I have things situated here. Now, the paper might have been an 8x8 pad, but the diagonals longer than the sides. So the longest diagonal on it is actually a little over 11¼ inches. And since I didn't need something very wide, it will work just along the 2 outer edges, like so. I just have to trim them off, and I'm going to cut them even and line them up. Since this green is 9 by 3 3/4, I just cut these little strips. They have about 3/4. They have 3/4 of an inch between the edge of the easels and the edge of the green. So to create my border around them, right, I will push this edge up against them because I cut them, hold on there, 1 2 3 4, like 5/8. I cut them 5/8, just shaved off 1/8 of an inch from 3/4, so that it will have a border here And then, since it is 9 inches, I will make it 9 and 8 and 3/4 inches long, so that it'll be an 1/8 of an inch border at the top and the bottom. Did that make sense? I was getting kind of distracted because I heard a phone call, so my mind attempted to start trying to listen to that at the same time. But I also want to make sure that the boards all line up. So I measure one and then just match up the second one. Two little sides to get put in place right there. You know what? I'm just going to fudge it now because I probably marked it wrong. Like I said, a phone call started and then my brain just went, oh, what's that sound? Oh, well, it's not a bigger, it's not so much a bigger gap. So it's fine. It'll be fine. All right, those are on. So then for the undersides, I have these little bits. The one I picked out on the bottom, I will cut so that it is even with the bottom of the sides. And then whichever one I decide I'm going to put on the top, same thing, make it so that it is even when it's pushed all the way down so that it's, you know, the same height. And then this one will completely cover underneath. So cut it the exact same size. So, you know, if you're looking at an Easel thing here, it'll be kind of like so for right now. And then from the piece of paper or the strip I had left from the other card, I cut out 3 pieces that are the same width, so 2 1/4 inches wide here. And then I'm going to kind of finagle them one way or another as my egg, or on behind my egg. I'm probably going to put the chipboard on first, just so that I can line things up how I want, especially on this one. I am going to line that Easter up at that lacy edge so that the green Happy Easter is on top of the pink, just for a little extra contrast. So something like that. I'm going to do that real quick. Get these little pieces glued in. Not a complicated matter right now. I decided to just extend that board look onto the easels. And that was because once I started placing these, they weren't exactly center where the design was, and this works just fine anyhow. But I staggered it a little bit. You can see, so that kind of gives it a look of, a different level, little bit of depth there. These two were the easier ones to cut. I could keep them at one piece. The center one I have pieced together, just trying to keep that stagger lined up so that when that piece is in, then it will just sort of, just to keep the board spacing the same so there wasn't any like skinnier ones randomly placed. If that makes sense, or at least to try to create that a little bit of an illusion there. All right, I just popped on a few of those little green flowers right there on the center egg. And now I'm going to try to figure out exactly what I want to use as. Yep, probably that. Probably those. I'm going to do the same thing with these that I did with the butterflies on the first card. And I just wanted to clarify the reason I put them on the foam first is so that when I put the diamond glaze on, it will help keep the paper, it keeps the paper from buckling. If you noticed, my butterflies stayed flat. Otherwise, putting it on before putting it on here, then it would very likely buckle the paper just because it's wet. And then I'd have to straighten it and it would probably crack it. And well, cracking diamond glaze after the fact is kind of a really cool effect. I didn't want it on this one, or on these projects, on these cards. Just going to coat these in the diamond glaze and then let that diamond glaze dry and pop them in place, and this card will be done. So this is really the last thing to do, and everything is finished. And yes, it would have been easier to put the paper and then on the foam and then cut out the pieces. But when I did the fussy cutting, I wasn't entirely certain what would be getting used where or how. So it all got fussy cut out. And then, well, then this. And there it is. Just popped on those little flowers that I had coated with the diamond glaze. And now both easel cards are completed and just ready for your insides to be added, the personalization of them. After the fussy cutting is done, then the rest of this is just an easy put together process. I hope that you enjoyed these two little cards and they gave you some ideas of what you can do using this month's Cards, Tags, and More kit. A few pieces of Tres Jolie chipboard on this one that you can get in the Tres Jolie store. Some solid cardstock from my stash, and a few little bits of glue and some foam. And if you don't have foam, you could just layer up some paper underneath, or some chipboard, or some of the cutoffs from the cardstock. It doesn't have to be foam. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications if you haven't already. Give us a thumbs up and feel free to share this video. Thank you, and I will see you again next week.